When it comes to cameras, Leica isn't a household name as much as Nikon or Canon, especially in a price-sensitive market like India. But with a mythos that continues to inspire photographers around the world, there has to be something more that attracts them to Leica, isn't it? With a history that goes back to more than 100 years, the brand is known for creating strong and beautiful cameras with a pinch of minimalism. Leica's recent cameras are a mix of retro looks and modern photography. The unique combination makes it stand out in the crowd, and that's part of the premium you pay, which is why professional photographers are drawn towards it. Hi, this is Siddharth from Techradar India, and I have been using the Leica Deluxe 7 for the past few days. I won't deny it, but I was surprised when I first saw this compact camera. This camera sits in the sweet spot between advanced and premium cameras. Even though it's a point-and-shoot camera, it comes with a bunch of features that will appeal to different kinds of users, including DSLR owners. I took the Deluxe 7 out for a spin from the busy streets of New Delhi to the calm evenings of Old Delhi, and here is what I think about it. But before we begin, here is a brief look at the key specs of Leica Deluxe 7. It packs a fixed 24-75mm lens with an aperture that varies between f1.7 and 2.8. With a micro four thirds sensor and a 17 megapixel resolution, the maximum image size that can be created on the Deluxe 7 measures 4736 by 3552 pixels. And all of this comes at a price of 94,300. Considering how Leica prices its camera, the Deluxe 7 is on the affordable side of things, which is a big plus. So the Deluxe 7 looks a lot like old school film cameras, but it is a whole new different take on pocket cameras. The body is largely magnesium alloy and the front has been kept minimal. It certainly looks classy and German, and the prominent red dot Leica logo gives it all the credibility it needs to stand out in the crowd. At times, the camera could feel like slipping from your hands as there is no grip to hold on to in the front. Maybe they did that to keep the exteriors of the camera as clean as possible, but who knows. This unit came with Leica's automatic lens cap with 3 lids, which get attached to the lens like a filter and opens up when the camera is in use. It's very ingenious if you ask me, and it works flawlessly. The Deluxe 7 is very easy to carry around, in hands or in pockets. When you pick it up in the hand, the first thing that will probably hit you is how light this camera is. It weighs around 403 grams and 64 mm at its thickest point. These top control buttons are beautifully carved and they give a tactile feeling when in use. The back is largely occupied by a 3-inch LCD touch monitor with a bunch of controls surrounding it, including this control dial. Then we have the viewfinder with a proximity sensor and a diopter adjustment dial. The HDMI socket and USB port are on the right edge under the pop-out cover, and on the base there is a battery and SD card port, again enclosed under a flap. Overall, this camera looks great and feels light in hand. It's got a solid build and is extremely portable for your travel. As far as point-and-shoot cameras go, the Deluxe 7 features more controls, and that can be overwhelming at first, especially if you're a beginner. You can set it into auto mode, or the aperture ring can be controlled manually to move between f1.7 and f16. Next up, we have a control ring to adjust focus when in manual mode. There is a focus switch which lets you change focus modes between manual, autofocus and macro autofocus. The other switch here allows you to choose a native aspect ratio between 3:2, 16:9, 1:1 or 4:3. Now this is especially handy as you can preset to an aspect ratio according to the scene before taking that picture and know how it is going to look. On the top, there is the hot shoe mount for a flash or other compatible accessories. The Deluxe 7 has 7 controls, including a power on-off switch, shutter speed dial, exposure dial, a zoom lever with a shutter button, 4K button and an auto program mode button. The shutter speed dial offers speeds ranging between 1/4000 seconds to 1800 seconds, in addition to the time mode which opens the shutter for around 30 minutes. The 4K button allows the camera to shoot pictures in different burst sequences. Now on the back, there are a bunch of controls, including a button to manually switch to electronic viewfinder, a post-focus button that helps tweak focus during post-process, a video recording button and another one to toggle autofocus and auto exposure. Slightly adjacent to the screen is a D-pad to control ISO, white balance, autofocus and shutter release mode. Then we've got the quick menu preview, delete and display buttons all surrounding the D-pad. With these many control options, it takes a bit of a learning curve to use the Deluxe 7. You can learn a lot about the art of creating pictures by using this camera, and the manual controls are an added plus. So since Leica recommends using this camera for portraits, landscapes and macro photography, I am taking this camera with me on a walk through the lanes of Old Delhi. Initially, I was amazed seeing that the Deluxe 7 generally nails color, contrast and saturation. Instagrammers will love its color profile. Pictures shot in low light turned out to be decent given the use of a 4/3 sensor. But at ISO levels over 800, grain starts to get visible. The other thing I noticed while taking shots during the evening was that the camera overexposes certain pictures to match the color of the sky, and in the process it bumps up highlights, resulting in reduced sharpness. I must say there are tons of controls in place to best utilize the camera, like the popular monochrome mode, 4K photo and post focus, to name a few. When it comes to videos, it can record 4K at 30 fps for 15 minutes straight, which is standard across compact cameras. While the jumps in the ISO and shutter speeds is comparatively higher, the f1.7 aperture is just perfect to create portraits. As far as the battery life is concerned, the Deluxe 7 has 1025 mAh battery, which can easily last for around 300 pictures and an hour of video recording. The battery gets fully charged in under 3 hours, and you can also charge it from your power banks. The Deluxe 7 is by all means a great point and shoot camera. It performs the best during daylight, and then the added macro focus mode allowed me to get closer to the subjects in some situations. Like I said, there is a learning curve associated with the Deluxe 7, and while it takes some adjustment, it will make you a better photographer in the long run. Using this camera was kind of like a refresher course in photography for me. While it is classic to look at, modern features like the 4K photo and video mode gives it an edge over other point and shoot cameras. I have to admit that shooting with the Leica is fun most of the times, and its ability to go manual is a blessing which is rare for this range of camera. In addition to all of that, pictures taken from the camera can be previewed on your phone instead of the display on the camera. I found it to be very useful when shooting outdoors and on the move. You can also save the picture on the phone and share it to Instagram, and the process is just as seamless. Overall, the Deluxe 7 is a very different camera, both in terms of looks and the controls it offers while taking a picture. For its asking price, it offers visually pleasing images, and that can largely be said for every camera that's available in the market under 90,000 bucks. But amongst them, there is just one Leica Deluxe 7. It's definitely not for everyone, but it's worth the premium you pay. So who's it for? Well, if you're just starting out and budget is not an issue, the Deluxe 7 will probably teach you more about photography than any other camera in the market. And if you're a DSLR owner looking to move from DSLR to compact cameras, this right here is a very good option.